Folks, we may have solved Atlanta's rotation issue. Let's talk about Tatsuya Imai. Yes, welcome on in to Braves Today for Thursday, December 4th. Your source for news, notes, and updates on your Atlanta Braves. I'm your host, Lindsey Crosby. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. You can follow the show on X, Braves_today. We have a Facebook page and an Instagram as well. And you can find all of my written work, BravesToday.com. That's the Braves Today Substack, as this is both a podcast and a newsletter. We're proudly part of the Believe Podcast Network and presented to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app or go to FanDuel.com to get started. The frustrating thing about this winter, and a couple of consecutive winters now, I think, is we all kind of know deep down in the cockles of our hearts that Atlanta is not going to spend the money to fill the roster holes with the best possible options. Since Alex Anthopoulos has been in Atlanta, he's popped a qualifying offer exactly once, and that was for reliever Will Smith. And the contracts that he has signed since he's been here, he's only given out one contract, period, extension or free agent contract, for more than $22 million a year, and that was a one-year deal for Josh Donaldson for $23 million prior to the 2019 season. He's the largest free agent signing that he has made since being in Atlanta is 4 years and $65 million. And that was Marcell Ozuna. And that was technically re-signing Ozuna after he got 1 year and $18 million for the 2020 season. The largest true free agent, 3 years, $42 million for Jurickson Profar. The largest pitcher contract was that 3-year, $40 million deal for Will Smith, which was popping the qualifying offer. And so deep down, we kind of all knew that Dylan Cease wasn't going to be in the cards. Local boy, would have been nice. 7-year deal. He got a ton of money. Not in the cards. Michael King, probably not going to happen. Ranger Suarez, I don't want that to happen. He's barely throwing 90 now. You give him a 5 or 6 year deal, he might be rolling the ball up there by the end of that deal. And so a lot of the conversation has been if you're adding a starter. And AA's been pretty clear he wants to add a starter. The press conference after the season, quote, "I would say rotation is absolutely front burner for us." He elaborated on that 2 weeks ago. We talked to him after he traded for Mauricio Dubon and signed Raisel Iglesias. And he said, quote, "We're pretty deep when it comes to the rotation. That doesn't mean that we don't want to insulate ourselves and have as much depth as we can and try to find someone that can help." The issue here is the money is what's required to get a frontline starter that is a quality guy. You have quantity, right? You have lots of back-end options between Bryce Elder, Joey Wentz, Grant Holmes, prospects, Blake Burkhalter, J.R. Ritchie. You have Dieter Fuentes. You have plenty of back-end options. Atlanta needs a playoff caliber starter. And I think I've solved this. Let's talk about Japanese star Tatsuya Imai. Let's talk about who he is as a pitcher. And then we'll talk about the logistics of signing him, what the posting window looks like, what the posting fee looks like, what the most common projections for his contract are, and why he doesn't want to go play for the Dodgers, which I think is a big deal. So what you need to know about Tatsuya Imai is he is 27 years old. He'll be 28 next May. So technically, the way MLB measures this, that will be his age 28 season. But he is one of the younger starters available on the market. He's also a little bit small, 5'11", 154 pounds. Now, there have been small pitchers before. Tim Lincecum was 5'11", 170. right? Marcus Stroman's 5'7", although he's like 180 pounds. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, 5'10", 176. He famously doesn't lift weights. Daniel Polinsky of the Cubs played at 160 pounds last year. Reese Olson of the Tigers pitched at 160 pounds last year. Like, the fact, like, his size is not automatically a disqualifying factor. It's unusual. A lot of teams aren't quite used to this. But it's not a disqualifying factor. And his stuff is very good. So last year in the NPB, 163 and 2/3 innings, a 192 ERA with 178 strikeouts to 45 walks and only 6 home runs. Now, it is not a dead ball league, but it is a very low ERA league. The average ERA is very low. This is still good performance, even in that respect. And what's really cool is he has a very, very unusual pitch mix. So we're gonna do some pitching nerd stuff real quick, okay? Just a few minutes. I'll do my best to explain everything. But Tatsuya Imai throws 6 pitches, and he does them from a very low arm slot. It's a very similar setup in a lot of regards to Luis Castillo of the Seattle Mariners. Luis Castillo is four-seam, sinker, slider, changeup. There's 2 fastballs combined for like 68% usage. He should throw one of them a little bit more. Sliders 20%, changeups 11%. Imai is 48% four-seam fastball, or again, he was in Japan last year. Comes in right about 95 miles an hour. He's got a slider that's it's like 86 miles an hour. I talk about this a lot. It's hard to have a bad gyro slider over 85 miles an hour. Throws it about 1/3 of the time. He has 3 changeups. It's the first time I have ever seen a dude throwing 3 different changeups. He has a traditional changeup. He throws 10% of the time. He has a splitter. He doesn't throw it a lot. It is reportedly a plus pitch, but he doesn't throw it often, like 4% of the time. He has a Vulcan change. This is a variation of a standard changeup. The Vulcan has sharper downward break. You spread your fingers a little bit, not quite to the extent of a splitter, but you spread your middle and ring fingers, and you get a little sharper drop, right? It's like a baby splitter, okay? And then he has a curveball that he throws as well. Those of you on YouTube can see on the screen, I have the whiff percentages against lefties and righties and everything. He gets over a 40% whiff rate on 4 of these pitches. Now, keep in mind, that is in NPB with a lower level of competition. But the point is, he throws 6 pitches. He gets plenty of swing and miss. He gets plenty of strikeouts. His walk rate is relatively good. And it's a package that should translate to the States pretty well. And there's a lot of really unique and interesting factors with that package. So again, the pitch mix, very similar to what Luis Castillo does, okay? The fastball, from a metric perspective, from a movement perspective, release point perspective, and everything, is very similar to the fastball of Joe Ryan of the Minnesota Twins. That fastball, I went ahead and I pulled up the numbers. That, I've talked a lot about Stuff Plus recently. Remember, 100 is an average pitch. Joe Ryan's fastball comes in at a 107, and he's throwing that at 93 and change, not at 95 miles an hour like Imai does. And Imai he can touch 98. He throws harder with runners in scoring position. It's a thing like Ronaldo Lopez does. Joe Ryan's fastball last year was plus 15 run value, 93rd percentile on StatCast. Like, Joe Ryan's fastball was one of the better fastballs in baseball, despite the pedestrian velocity because of the movement profile. Tatsuya Imai's fastball movement is practically identical to Joe Ryan. Again, 3 off-speed pitches, including a splitter. Really curious to see. I've never really seen a lot of splitters from a low arm slot. I'm really curious to see what that looks like. And then he has a really unusual slider. If you remember in the postseason, Tatsuya Savage of the Toronto Blue Jays had a really wicked-looking slider that actually moved to the arm side, not the glove side. The traditional slider almost always moves towards the glove hand. If you're throwing it as a righty, you're throwing it to a righty, it's going to break away from that guy towards the side of your body where your glove is. Tatsuya Savage's slider doesn't do that. Tatsuya Imai's slider doesn't do that. It moves to the arm side. It's called a reverse slider. It's a newer thing. Haven't seen a ton of these. Some people have, when you throw it a little bit softer, some like as a curveball, sometimes people call these death balls. It's a curveball that moves to the arm side. Same idea. This has become a newer thing in pitch development, is finding ways. We've talked about this. Like, you want to be unusual and unpredictable on the mound. Tatsuya Imai may be the most unpredictable pitcher I have ever seen on a mound. Because again, it's a really unique fastball. It's a really low slot. It is an incredibly unique slider. I've only seen one other guy throwing this slider, and that's Tatsuya Savage. And you saw how much trouble the Dodgers had with it in the postseason. And then he's got 3 changeups. 3 different changeups. And then just for giggles, he can drop a curveball underneath everything. Incredibly unique profile as a pitcher. It's also an incredibly unique financial situation for the Braves to take advantage of. Let's talk about that next, right here on Braves Today. Welcome back to Braves Today. Lindsey Crosby. Real quick, I've talked about this. We're just a couple days away now. Georgia, please beat Alabama for the SEC championship. You're a 2.5-point favorite. Shout out to our friends at FanDuel over there. I would be just absolutely chuffed if Alabama would lose. And then what's also great to know is they do have Georgia with the 3rd best odds to win the national championship. It's like Ohio State plus 185. Okay, fine. Indiana plus 370. Georgia plus 750. I really struggle with the thought that Indiana, I know Cignetti's a great coach. I really struggle with the thought that they're going to have the horses to win a national championship. FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app if you want to fade Indiana and take money on Georgia at plus 750 for a national championship. Okay, the advantage of going after Tatsuya Imai instead of trying to go get a Michael King or whatever, like 2 or 3-fold here, okay? Number 1 is Imai does not have a qualifying offer. We found out earlier this week, I think I put it on social media when it happened, that the Braves are getting the number 26 overall pick for Drake Baldwin winning Rookie of the Year. That's the PPI pick. I did confirm with the league that you cannot trade that pick. But you would lose that pick if you popped a qualifying offer player. The rule is your second highest pick, that pick is not protected. You would lose that pick were you to sign a qualifying offer player. So were you to sign a Zach Gallen, were you to sign a Michael King, were you to sign a Bo Bichette, you would lose that pick. Last year, that pick had a $3.49 million slot value. The Phillies took Gage Wood, the pitcher out of Arkansas that was amazing and down the street. Like, they took him, paid him only $3 million, and had an extra $500,000 to use on other guys in the draft. And Atlanta did something similar. Tate Southesine didn't take the full amount. For the Phillies, they went over slot on Cade Obermuller, the lefty out of Iowa, in the second round. And then I think they threw a ton of money at a high school senior in like the 7th round. They paid him like $1.25 million. They paid him like the second highest bonus of their draft for a 7th round pick because he said he would sign. So they got a first round talent, second round talent in the 7th round because they had money left over. And a lot of that money came from that first round pick and the $500,000 they saved. So the advantage with Imai is you don't lose a qualifying offer. You don't lose the $500,000 out of your international bonus pool for next year if you sign Imai. The downside is there's a posting fee. So the way that this works, and in the newsletter today, by the way, bravestoday.com, I've got a chart in there that shows you how they break down the posting fee. But the way this works is when an NPB team posts a player to be signed in MLB, and I'll get to a lot of the rules on that in a second, there is what's called a release fee or a posting fee that you pay based on the value of the contract. Okay? There's good and bad here. One, you're not losing a draft pick. Two, this money you pay does not count against the CBT. This is just an extra payment that you make. It's a one-time payment that you make that does not count against the CBT. So the projected contract for Imai, according to John Becker of Fangraphs, he keeps a Google Doc that he graciously shared with me that has all of the common, media predictions or insider predictions of these contracts for all of these different guys. The median contract for Imai is 6 years, which takes him ages 28 through 33, 34. 6 years, $127.5 million, meaning $21.25 million a year. So Imai would come in underneath the Atlanta max of $22 million. So from a financial perspective, from a sheer amount you are paying him per season, he fits with Atlanta's payroll, right? We don't have to hope the Braves go above and beyond to cover him. You do have to pay the posting fee. And the posting fee varies based on the amount of the contract. I did all of the math. 6 years, $127.5 million means the posting fee is roughly $21 million. Here's the thing. Atlanta is not afraid to have a 1-year outlay to acquire talent. You know how we know that? 2 winter meetings ago, we saw them do that for Jared Kelenic. Kelenic didn't work out, and thankfully he was only $1 million or so. Like his actual salary was not very much. But they took on a ton of dead money, and almost all of it was paid off that season to acquire Jared Kelenic. This would be a similar situation, except you would have to also pay Imai a salary in 2026. So $21 million in a posting fee, $21.25 million salary. His first year outlay is $42 million. But after that, back to $21 million a season, and the extra $21 million in posting fee, again, is not part of the CBT. It does not get you closer to going over a threshold where taxes kick in and where you could lose a draft pick, which AA has said is a line they don't want to cross. It's literally just money. We know the Battery is making money. This right here can be paid for by a quarter of the rents and the activity of the Battery. You built the Battery can pay the posting fee to get Tatsuya Imai. And not only can you get him soon, his posting window has actually already opened. The way this system is set up, it's a 45-day period. He was posted on November 19th. So he needs to sign a deal by January 2nd. According to reports, he is in the States this week to meet with interested teams ahead of the winter meetings. And then probably do some more stuff at the winter meetings. He honestly probably signs late next week or maybe early the week after that. You can figure this out before the new year. You can get this done and know, hey, we've upgraded at shortstop. We've brought back our closer, and we've added a potential high impact starter, a guy that we can take our time to break in because we have so many other rotation options. You can do all of this before the new year. Again, the stuff is filthy. It's incredibly unique. And yes, I'm a little concerned about the size. Again, listed at 5'11", 154. We've seen guys be that small and be successful. Tim Lincecum was fantastic. He did burn out a little bit early. Marcus Stroman has been a major league starter for like a decade now at 5'7", 180. We saw a couple different guys, 5'11", 160. Reese Olson, Daniel Palencia, do this last year. Neither one of them was bad. So I do think this is a really interesting strategy that the Braves could do. One, to get into the Japanese market. Two, have another piece for the postseason. And what's funny is he doesn't want to go to the Dodgers. He was asked about this talking to Daisuke Matsuzaka, former MLB pitcher who came over from Japan. And he said, of course, I'd enjoy playing alongside Ohtani, Yamamoto, and Sasaki, but winning against a team like that and becoming a world champion would be the most valuable thing in my life. If anything, I'd rather take them down. He wants, and he even said he likes the idea of being the only Japanese player on the team. Quote, if there was another Japanese player on the same team, I could just ask them about anything. But that's actually not what I'm looking for. In a way, I want to experience that sense of survival. When I come face to face with cultural differences, I want to see how I can overcome them on my own. That's part of what I'm excited about. So he doesn't necessarily care. He doesn't want to be on the Dodgers. He doesn't care if you have other Japanese players. And if the median projection ends up being where he comes in, you can fit him under the Atlanta max without a qualifying offer, and all it costs you is a one-time payment of 1/4 of the money the battery makes that you're not even obligated to share with the other Major League Baseball teams. Give me a reason, other than the fact he's 5'11", 154, to not pursue Tatsuya Imai this winter. Outside of that, that was kind of the main focus of the show, but we did have other signings go on. Talking about players coming over from Asia. If you remember, Merrill Kelly came back a couple of years ago, ended up being really good for Arizona. Eric Fetty came back recently after winning MVP in Korea. He came over. He got 2 years, $15 million with the White Sox. He ended up getting traded to the Cardinals. They cut him when he was bad the second year. He came here. We cut him because he was bad here. Signed with the Brewers. I don't think he got into a game with them. They cut him eventually. He's a free agent right now. I talked in the Dylan C. show about how guys are getting paid off of stuff. Cody Ponce came back to the States. Brewers second rounder. He pitched like 2 seasons for the Pirates with an ERA of almost 6. He went to Japan, 3 years in Japan, 1 year in Korea, very similar to Eric Fetty. He won the MVP in Korea, just like Eric Fetty did, and then he came back to the States. And again, Fetty signed 2 years, $15 million. Ponce just signed for $30 million with the Toronto Blue Jays. And he was really good last year, don't get me wrong. 189 ERA, 252 strikeouts, and 182 thirds innings in Korea. But he signed for $30 million with the Blue Jays as a starter because what have we been saying? Salaries for stuff. He's got really good stuff. He's averaging 95 on his fastballs, touching 98. He was pitching in low 90s with the Pirates. He added a kick change. Love a good kick change. Has a cutter, has a curveball. Lance Brodrowski, the Marquee Network pitching analyst, who I consider a friend, talked about like bringing back the old gyro slider, making his cutter his primary fastball, over his four-seamer and how he could end up being a very, very good major league pitcher. And that's kind of the trend of like paying for stuff has continued. Look at the closers, the 4 closers that have signed, right? Raisel Iglesias came back here. Devin Williams went to the Mets, 3 for 51. Emilio Pagan returned to the Reds, 2 for 20. And Ryan Helsley, 2 for 28 to the Orioles. I talked about you're getting salaries for stuff. When you sort last year by Stuff Plus for qualified relievers, those 3 guys, Helsley, Williams, and Pagan, are number 1, number 2, and number 4 in stuff in the free agent market, in Stuff Plus. In the reliever, like Helsley was number 2 overall for relievers last year in Stuff Plus. He got 2 for 28. Devin Williams was second among free agents and 28th overall out of all relievers in baseball. He got 3 for 51. Emilio Pagan was 4th among free agents and 37th overall. He got 2 for 20. There's a lot of talk that Pete Fairbanks, the activity has picked up on Pete Fairbanks, formerly of the Rays, and that he could possibly sign within the next week. He's 5th in the class for relievers in Stuff Plus and 37th overall in baseball. I said it on Monday. I'll say it again. MLB teams are paying guys for the quality of their stuff, and the results are secondary. And so if you want a guy that doesn't have a qualifying offer, that should fit under the Atlanta max and has really good and unique stuff, Tatsuya Imai's really the only option here. It feels like it makes a ton of sense. If you think of a reason other than, and if you are concerned about the 5'11", 154, that's perfectly valid. If you have a reason why you think this isn't going to work, let me know. If you're watching on YouTube, you can drop it in the comments. I'm on social media at Crosby Baseball. You can do all of that stuff. In the meantime, do us a favor. If you're listening on audio, 5-star review would be fantastic. Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when we drop the next episode, when we try to go live tomorrow. Let's see what happens. All that good stuff. Let's see if Bandit cooperates. Until next time, this has been Braves Today.